Aloha. A dose of positivity is here. Another episode to share with all of you stewards of the land, humanitarians, and solutionists. I want to welcome everybody here who's live and also everybody listening to the replay to another amazing episode where I have the great privilege and honor to interview these passionate change makers, thought leaders, health professionals, all putting social and environmental justice at the forefront of their endeavors. And I am so pleased to introduce our guest today, Jae Sabol, in just a few minutes. He is somebody that I have been following for at least 10 years. And the topic of our show today is creating global sustainability with self-replicating, sustainable eco-communities. Wow. Okay, well, Jae, I can hardly wait if you could just wave to everybody while people are coming in. Before we get started, there's Jae in the corner, and you're going to have an opportunity to do Q&A with him. Put your chats in the box, anything you have to say. And just a reminder to everybody, this is a live broadcast coming into you, streaming live from Hawaii. And it is a gorgeous day here. And for anybody who wants to stay on after the live chat, you will get a glorious view of Maui today and a garden tour. And as people are coming into the room, as usual, I'm going to take this opportunity before Jae comes on to read something from one of my books that is very appropriate, that will warm us up and relax us into the conversation, Jae. So this is from my book, Conscious Cures. Solutions to 21st Century Pandemics. And this is in the chapter called Unity in Community Builds Immunity. Support regenerative development and conservation. That's the heading. There has never been a more perfect time to shift our lives and our communities for the better. As individuals, new rituals and ways of gathering and celebrating will redefine and shift our habits. Like everything in nature, we thrive on diversity, not monocrop ecosystems that drain humanity's creativity. When we engage and we raise our voices to help all species, generations, cultures, and religions, we live with purpose and a sense of place. Like every snowflake, each person, community, and ecosystem is unique. Think about it. How can something so little and lightweight as a seed bring so much abundance? Seeds of change start with small ideas that germinate and propagate into carbon sequestering forests, orchards, and a world. Organizations such as One Community, that Jae Sabol, our featured guest, is helping to design human communities around the gifts of nature. Communities are more resilient when economically developed around diversity and the essential food, water, shelter, clothing, education, and healthcare. It also elevates the economics of happiness in our communities when no one is suffering and everyone has their basic needs covered. This is genuine prosperity. And the more we can create and exchange goods and services with regional resources, the more we contribute to our local economy and community development. A restorative approach to community building makes our cities, public spaces, and downtown areas safe, more meaningful, accessible, and practical for future generations and for the present day.
Yeah, really well said. Beautiful.
Yay, we're on the same page. Everybody.
Totally.
Yeah. So glad to see you, Colleen, in the house. Thank you so much for coming in live today. We love you. Colleen is streaming in from Alaska and Beverly from Canada. So we are being represented very well from the Northern Hemisphere right here. So So Jay, I am super excited for you to first, before we dive into a bunch of questions here, share, I want to get a little personal here. I want like to really understand how you got into permaculture, how you got into being this holistic health professional. And, but before I do that, what I just realized, I didn't really read your bio, right? So, I could either read it or let me just do this real quick, you guys. I was so excited to introduce him that I forgot the bio, but you're going to fill in the spaces for me, Jay. Okay?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, Jay has been an entrepreneur like me. Yay! If you're not, you want to be. It's a really good thing to do. No, you don't necessarily.
Yes.
It's a good thing, right? For over 20 years, and he's experienced over 70 certifications and qualifications of holistic living, nutrition, and psychology. He has spent the last 2 decades studying the social and psychological aspects of social change, leadership, and personal achievement. And it's so funny, why I was like, I want you to tell me more, is because that was a really short bio. And I think people need to know the full extent. So can you give us what happened 20 years ago when you jumped into all of this?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, my whole life has been a life of service. Even in college, I was in the restaurant industry, but then I realized during going to college for an engineering degree that I was really inspired by health and fitness. And so that evolved into personal training, then massage therapy, then exercise therapy, then neuromuscular therapy, and then life coaching over 15 years of running a practice. And I had the opportunity to work with Olympic athletes and, some really successful people. And then that evolved into one community and into permaculture. Because as part of all of that holistic health training that I did, I went through a 4-year holistic health program. And that was my first real introduction to like organic food, toxins in our environments, understanding, the effects of stinking thinking on our physiology, like how our psychology applies to our physiology. And so that really got me interested in sustainability. And so, I mean, that was probably only 5 or 6 years into my career that I started thinking of like, wow, what would be the most sustainable home that you could build? Like, how could you eliminate all these toxins from your environment? How could you create an environment that nurtured your physiology, but also nurtured your emotional psychology as well, your soul and the health of the whole integrated being, and then, over 10 years of thinking and talking about that with my clients and with friends and family, eventually it evolved into one community and creating a space like you said in your book, the ultimate goal of one community is to create a place where when people come and visit one community, they're transformed permanently and they're infected with the idea of I could live a different life. Like I don't have to go back to my cubicle. I could create a life that and an environment that fully supports the human organism, and so that mission for myself, for my friends, for my family, and then ultimately evolving and realizing like this is an idea that could change the world is what turned us into a nonprofit. And that was the beginnings, and here we are.
Wow. Passion, I swear we must have come from the same mother or something, or
Yeah.
I mean, it is one thing connects to, it's all interconnected, right?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful when we realize when this collective interconnectedness, and I like the intersectional and intergenerational and all of this that you're bringing in one community. So when you created one community, what was your actual vision of what it was going to be for people like who are on this show today? What was your heart saying how it's going to serve?
You mean the original or what it's evolved into, or both?
No, I think I want to hear from the original and then how it evolved from the original to where you are now, how things have changed, like you were talking earlier about sustainability and regeneration. Like how are things changed? And
Yeah, so originally One Community was not called One Community. It was meant to be a holistic health retreat where people would come and basically be able to detox and be able to take educational programs. At that point in my life, I was spending an average of $30,000 a year on education, going to seminars and trainings and things like that. And I'd learned so much about sustainable living, sustainable construction, sustainable food, that I wanted to create a place that really embodied all of that. And just from a a personal level, I wanted to create that place and invite the mentors and the people that I respected most to be able to come and teach within that environment, share their knowledge and experience with myself and other people, and at the same time be able to create a place where people could immerse themselves in truly like radical sustainability and see how much better they felt when they were eating food that didn't have pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides, when they were living in homes that didn't have any toxic ingredients that were built from the earth in a lot of cases, and like just the energy of that environment as a whole. So that was the idea was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm for living in Los Angeles, and I maxed out my industry, and I'd become really as successful as I could be within my industry. And it was like, okay, how do I take this to the next level? How do I provide deeper level service to people? How can I take what I'm doing right now, which is transforming the lives of people face to face and working with individuals, and like I said, Olympic athletes and stuff, really making difference on a one-on-one basis, but how can I scale that up and affect groups of people? How can we create that? And so the idea was like, let's create a holistic health retreat where people can come, and instead of talking about this stuff, they can live in one of these structures. They can eat the kind of food, like a fully immersive environment, so that when they come to that environment, they realize like, oh, this is what's possible. When everything I'd been teaching for 10 years to people one-on-one, and getting them to switch to organic food and getting them to eliminate, like their toxic cleaning products and makeup and all, I mean, I can go on and on and on about all of it. It's like, how can I create a space where people can experience all of that in one place and get the full experience? And then from there, be able to take that knowledge back and be inspired to change their lives in even more meaningful ways. And then that evolved into one community as it is now. As we started bringing together people and saying, okay, how do we create this? We realized that the bigger picture would be to open source and free share that and create it as something that was replicable. Because my idea was like, well, let's infect brains with this idea of what's possible, and they'll go out and live better lives. It's like, well, wait, if we really want to change the world, we could create this. We were talking about, we're like, we have the ability to make this as something that could be replicated globally. And then we could work in collaboration globally to create more and more what are now called teacher demonstration hubs, community villages and cities, to teach how to create other teacher demonstration hubs, communities, villages, cities, how to build even more. And so you started looking at like global problems. It opened up a whole new mindset of how to think about like what's going on globally and how to address the greatest challenges of our generation and generations to come, poverty, food insecurity, homelessness, lack of energy infrastructure, social injustice, inequality, crime. Like this idea of creating a place where everybody's needs are met fully, and from that place they have the resources to be able to help other people. And human nature and history has taught that we will, like when our needs are fully met, when everything that we need is provided for us, it's human nature to reach a hand out to our brothers and sisters and want to help them too. And so if we create that space and a place where people can come and all their needs are met, and its purpose is to do that, is to reach out, to constantly reach out and say, how can we help others because our needs are so fully met, and create more places to do the same thing, to live from pure abundance and say, like, what can we do from that space? This is a world-changing idea. And so that's one community's goal. That's what we're doing.
You guys, everybody who's on the call who knows me knows I have full of goosebumps, and I am so excited.
I get that too. Yeah.
So like that was like, oh yes.
Yeah.
It's like
I start getting emotional when I talk about it because it's just so.
I know.
Yeah.
So good, and I'm so glad you're in the house. You're gonna love this. But anyway, this is really, really great. Now, I'm just so curious, like when you first started out and people came to your eco retreat, what kinds of responses did you get from people? Was it overwhelmingly like, wow, this is so dope. I can't believe I'm going to go home and get rid of the black mold, or I'm going to never put this crap on my face again, or, what was I thinking? I can't shower outside, or, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we hadn't built it yet. So that the idea evolved from like, this is what we're going to do. I had investors at that point. And so we were starting to design that holistic health retreat. So, but I can still speak to that statement from what I experienced within my clinic, and the experiences that people had, how chronic pain would go away, how, things like migraine headaches or insomnia, lifelong problems that they had would be changed through changing their lifestyle, changing their environment, eliminating toxins, improving their food, and so I used to do 5-hour assessments on people, and I would look at all the medications that they were on. And I mean, it was a really in-depth, super deep process that I would dive into with people. And so the goal was to create an environment that would provide the same thing rather than spend all that time assessing people, let's provide the comprehensive solution and let people just come immerse themselves in it and get the results without having to have all the conversations about it. And then open sourcing and free sharing it so that they could take what they learned and take that experience home with them and then reproduce that in their own environment. And then it evolved into, well, we should teach them how to grow their own food, build their own homes, like the full model of a teacher demonstration hub. So that's what our team is developing, is all of that.
So great. I don't want you to ever give up that retreat because I want to come to it. I know there are some people who have taken that idea and are doing beautiful things. There's a few places even here on the Big Island. And I encourage all of our listeners, everybody who is listening to if next time you're going on a vacation or doing something, to think about checking into some kind of an eco spa, right? Something like where you can really truly detox, cleanse your body, mind, and spirit, and have that opportunity to become one with nature. Because as I always say, the closer we get to nature, the closer we get to our true nature. So now what I'd like to do is ask you, Jae, to bring us up to speed on how one community is serving, you talk about a global platform and you have a lot of volunteers. How is it working now? Explain the structure, and then we're going to put all the links in the chat for you guys so you can look up the website. It is the most brilliant website I think I've ever been to, with the most comprehensive information on how to achieve one community. So I hope you all check it out. So
Yeah.
go ahead and share some of that with us.
Yeah, so we've had, we're 100% a volunteer organization, including myself. So I've been volunteering full time for this organization now for 12 years. We've had over 600, coming up on 700 volunteers contribute to the project. We currently have volunteers on every continent except for Antarctica contributing to the project. And what we're creating is open source and free shared tools and tutorials, resources, blueprints, and do-it-yourself instructions for all aspects of highest good, what we call highest good living. And so highest good is really like making all decisions from the perspective of what is in the highest good of all people in life on this planet, and constantly refining everything that we do to meet that goal of like what's the best that we can possibly do, and then open sourcing and free sharing that. And so the project has now evolved into 7 key foundations. We have the physical foundations of sustainability that everybody's familiar with, which is like food, energy, and housing. And then we have the emotional foundations of sustainability, which are arguably more important, and we've identified and are focusing on as fulfilled living, what we call highest good approaches to education, economics, and then true earth stewardship. And so putting all those things together, we're building the do-it-yourself instructions, step-by-step instructions for creating teacher demonstration hubs. And it will be a holistic health retreat in that 30% of everything that we're building will be allocated to ecotourism so that people can come, stay on the property, experience what it is that we're doing, and everything that they see will be open source and free shared. And everything that they see will be owned and operated by the residents. So there won't be any employees that will be commuting to come to one community. The entire environment will be operated by the residents living there to maintain it and share their gifts and their passions, and as part of the environment that's created. So it's modeled off of like a Club Med type of design, or even like a cruise, where everything that you would want to do is within walking distance. But the difference is it's 100% owned by the residents. And so this is what we're developing. And so we have a core team of people that will be moving to the property, and we're constantly working on building that. And then we have, outside of that, we have all the volunteers that are like interns that are constantly contributing to the project to help build their resumes, to develop their skills, to share their skills and passions. And so that's how we've developed all the different components. And so that's what we're focusing on: food, energy, housing, fulfilled living, education, economics, and stewardship, and putting all that together and creating step-by-step instructions for each one of those. And then those instructions are what we will use to build everything that we're developing. And through that process, we will add video tutorials, we'll double check all of our details, cost analysis, permitted plans, and so that becomes then the prototype that is shared as a complete package that people can implement anywhere in the world, or take any of the components and implement them as individual components. Because some people might want to, I mean, building a community is a pretty big deal. Maybe people just want to grow something new or implement some permaculture in their life or start a homeschool education program, like our education program's designed for that. So everything is modular as well as designed to be able to be combined as the complete one community model. And then it's meant to be hands off. So once we're done, and everything that we've done right now, everything is open source and free shared. So people don't have to interact with us or ever even talk to us to use the resources that we've created. Like we did 100 and I think it was like 120 hours of research on the most sustainable flooring. I had 3 engineers work on that because I had to ask the question. I need to know, what is the real answer? I don't want to be sold the answer by somebody selling me a product. I need unobstructed and unique research that is not influenced by anybody outside. I need to be truly ethical, and so we put 3 researchers on that topic alone, and they spent over 100 hours just asking the question and creating a grid to objectively analyze that and looking at this topic alone. And it's like, okay, so we've done all that independent research so that we can share that. Now anybody can use that. And so we needed that for our project. And so we're doing that for everything. And we've spent 60 hours on shower heads. We spent, urinals, hand dryers. I mean, you name it, anything for our project, we're researching it. So we have the best in the world. And then once we've identified that, that becomes the benchmark. So if somebody comes out with a new product tomorrow, I can very easily compare that to the research, the hundreds of hours that we've already done, and say, all right, is this really revolutionary and new and even better, or is it not? And we're doing the same thing with companies. Like, what is their carbon footprint? What are their human relations? Like, how does this company rank as a company aside from their products? So this is the kind of stuff that we're doing. And then building it all will be, one community place that people will be able to come and visit and experience all of that.
I love this so much. And, being a researcher myself and writing these books all about sustainability and regeneration, I have done huge amounts of research on this, and I know what it takes to go into it. And I know the greenwashing that is circling around, and how, like you say, getting non-biased, really the truth. So I have to ask you a question. What is the most sustainable flooring?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot. Oh, actually, I do remember. It's been a while since we've done that research. It's reclaimed hardwood.
Reclaimed hardwood.
Reclaimed hardwood. Yeah. So hardwood that's been already built into something and reclaiming that. So right now, like if a building is torn down, there's organizations that go out and take all of the materials from that, and then they'll resell them. So it's literally recycled wood, but the quality is outstanding and it's super, super sustainable. That's number one. Some of the surprises were like bamboo turned out to be really low on the list. And we thought, like, we designed with bamboo initially, but because of the distance that needs to be transported and the adhesives within that and the whole process for manufacturing it, surprisingly, we were shocked to find out that it wasn't like top 5. It might be top 4, but it definitely wasn't top 3. And we thought it was going to be like number 1 or 2. So, but if you're interested, so anything that I talk about, if you just Google like Flooring One Community Global, you can look at that page. Insulation is another one that we did, over 100 hours of research on, and we studied like the top 23 different types of insulation out there. So, but yeah, just Google anything that we're talking about. It's really, it's fascinating. And I get the benefit of reading all this stuff, get to see it after somebody's done 100 hours of research and just get the answer, which is nice.
Yeah. And then build it.
Share it. Yeah.
Well, what is so interesting when I was doing all that, my research on certain things that I was doing too, one of the things that I found, and this is to be true in anything, is buy local, regional.
Yes.
So like for me, bamboo might not be so bad, but I would want to use the bamboo that was here, right? Like thinking about sourcing our food from anything from 150-mile radius, like Transition Town.
Yeah.
The UK has done huge reports on that. I just really commend you on taking that, looking at it like from the soil to the soul, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How is this affecting the Mother Earth, the soil, the skin of the earth, the womb of the mother? And then I really would love for you to get more into how one community has put more of an emphasis right now on looking at the psychological aspects, especially since we're in this COVID still continuing era, whether we believe it or not, how that has shifted and played a more prominent part in your work.
Yeah, wow, man, that's a big topic. So COVID was a really interesting experience for us to go through as an organization, and for me personally, because I got to see that unfold on a global scale with our team. So like when COVID went through India, like we had our whole India team in India had people that were impacted by it, lost loved ones to it. Pretty wild. It's created an interesting shift in the psychology and the paradigm for volunteer work. There's a lot more people working from home. We had a lot of people that wanted to get remote experience, things like that. And on a psychological level, it was interesting because it built a different type of community for us as a 100% currently virtual organization. You know, it was pretty fascinating to be working with a team of 50 volunteers from all over the world and talking to them on a weekly basis and hearing their different experiences and what they were going through with that from a bigger picture as far as like what it means to one community. I mean, one of the foundations of one community is the community aspect of it. So for myself, having been in various communities throughout my life, one of the most magical experiences being with a group of like-minded people that share values and building or creating something and working on something. And so one community has created that on a global scale by inviting, the 600 plus volunteers that have come to our project and developing what it is. And then our core team is all people that didn't know each other before we got together. And now some of us have worked together for 9 years, in this environment, and we've been able to meet each other, and, they come and visit and we get together when we can. So, watching the impacts of COVID on the community experience has been an interesting validation of the value and the importance as people were forced to be isolated. And then something like one community became like one of their primary avenues of interaction and collaboration because they're like, oh, well, I can't find a job right now, or, I've been laid off, or we're at home, I'm stuck at home, I want to do something. That has been an interesting experience to go through over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think has been from a one community perspective, positive on the human level for all of us to be able to interact with each other and have something that we're working on and we could do from home and be able to collaborate virtually and when we couldn't go into offices and things of that nature.
Well, I think the whole concept of this one community and just the word community and the psychology around community. I'm not going to go out. I can't. Community is so important. I mean, we're Homo sapiens. We thrive with community, and I just think this. I'm hoping that this transition. I think that what's happening with this pandemic is making a lot of people really wake up to the idea of how valuable this open sourcing is, how valuable these eco environments are, how much healthier they are, how antimicrobial. I mean, the environments that people have lived in for such a long time. We want those microbes. We want those healthy, the soil, the openness. To hug people again and feel safe in a community. And it sounds like your designs and how you're building them and how you're situating structures and having open spaces is really, I shouldn't say the wave of the future. It's how things were in the past.
Yeah.
And to get back to the future, as we like to say.
Yeah.
Where are you at with the building of the actual physical part of one community? Is that happening?
No, we think we probably got another couple of years of design work, although we're working on, so another big part of our project, which isn't included in like the physical and emotional foundations, is we've developed custom software for like organizing, collaborating, and we're designing it so that we'll be able to collaborate with other groups building the same things that we're building around the world. And a big component of that software is very close to being finished, which will allow me to scale our team up from, which is currently hangs out around somewhere between 30 and 50 people is about the most that I personally can manage, to more like 100 to 200 people. And so I bring this up because I think that we're probably 2 to 3 years away from being ready to start construction, which is finishing all the open source plans. So for instance, like we've answered the question of the most sustainable flooring and insulation, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done on electrical and plumbing And just in the last like 6 months, we had 3 master plumbers that contacted us and wanted to help out. And it turned out that like our online collaboration process was just too much for them. They were just like, like, I just want to help. Like, how do I just help you design like Google Docs and like Zoom calls and that kind of stuff didn't work for them. So that was a big wake up call for us. And we've developed software that's going to make it possible for those people with like 30 years of experience to be able to easily manage teams in a virtual environment so we can more rapidly complete everything. So I think in a worst case scenario, I think we have, 3 to 4 years before we're ready to start construction. But if we can complete this component, we could fast track that and it could happen a lot faster. So that's really where we're at. And again, everything that we're developing is, like I said, it's our assembly instructions. If we were just setting out to get funding and just build it just for ourselves, it would be a heck of a lot easier. But the process of open sourcing it and writing it and creating it all in such a way that other people can build it without us helping them, so they can just access the information online and be able to see the research and the step-by-step instructions. And we're essentially like storyboarding the entire project like a movie. Before you do a movie, you create a storyboard of what the movie's going to be like, so you have an idea of what it's going to look like. Well, our website is that. And if you get deep enough into it, you'll find pages that are complete that are like, oh, well, then we're going to shoot a video that shows this here and this and this. And so that's what we're writing. So when the time comes to actually build one community, we have everything set out so that our open source manager can say, hey, we need to make sure that we get a video of this. We need to make sure we produce this, and so that we're as ready as possible for the unexpected, because there's lots of questions that will come up and, problems that we might not have thought about, but we're trying to cross our T's and dot our I's and get it as complete as possible so that we can focus on the problems that we don't expect when they arise and be able to be fully successful in producing something that will truly be replicable anywhere in the world. I mean, that's the end goal, has to be replicable so that other people can do it as well. And so that's a big foundation of what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's going to be different in the northern hemisphere than in the southern hemisphere. I mean,
Yes.
I'm sure you're including all that. And what about the permaculture plan? Is that all in there too? Green spaces and
Yes.
food production, because that's going to also differ from each, no matter where you are in the world. So
Yeah.
that's a huge undertaking. But because a mango tree goes different than a cactus and so forth.
Yeah.
But both of them giving us either food or medicine source. So
Right. So
yeah,
what we're doing is to address that. This is a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. So we're designing, we call it open source project launch blueprinting. And what that means is we're open sourcing the actual open source process. So everything that we're creating, our step-by instructions are designed as templates, so that then when somebody else in the world wants to build it in their location, they'll be able to use our software to compare their construction process, which will be fairly objective, but we'll be able to analyze like the differences in skilled labor versus unskilled, like how weather impacted it, that kind of stuff. But then also they'll be able to use our templates for something like building a food forest for our agricultural zone to building a food forest for theirs. And then when they use that, they can do the same research for themselves. Then they will be able to share that with us and we can open source that. And so now we have 2 models. So now we have a model representing our area, and our area covers, like, we've designed this to span from high desert in Utah, like -20 degrees Fahrenheit, to seismic zone in San Diego, which is one of the most in the world. So we're looking at like, okay, earthquake resilience for San Diego, but cold resilience for like high desert in Utah. So we've got a huge envelope that we're covering, but that doesn't cover like South America or Nigeria, so we're designing it in such a way that then it's a template so that when they'll have the foundations to be able to save themselves immense amounts of time and energy and to know exactly what the process looks like. And then it's as easy as going like, okay, we just need to answer these specific questions, make these adjustments to make this fit for our environment. And then if they're willing to open source and free share that content using our templates, then we'll promote their project the same way we promote our project. And so it becomes a win-win. Our ask is that they need to do something for humanity, because our project isn't designed where it's required for that. So they can take our information and just do what they want with it and do it. But if they're willing to actually open source and free share it, like what we're doing, then those are the groups that our software is designed so that we can work in collaboration and handhold them through the process and be more hands-on with them. Otherwise, those questions come into us, we answer them on the internet, on the website. And so our goal is to keep evolving it that way for people that don't want to do that. But really, we want to build a global collaboration so that we can address every environment and answer those questions. And so everything's built as a template and a structure to follow with that in mind.
Oh, I absolutely love how you're adding that humanitarian component as your ask. I mean, wow, this is so beautiful to hear, and wish every organization came forward with that. But we know that to be
Yeah.
and
And
everybody
it's a
else.
big, if I may, that's a big foundation too, is like we talk about, rather than give a man a fish, teach a man to fish, teach a person to fish, and that's a big part of it too, is we believe that our open source plans could be used for humanitarian aid so that rather than setting up, like in Louisiana, there's people still living in like thrown together homes, that have become like shanty towns. Rather than do that, we could build sustainable housing for those people and give them the resources to build it themselves. And these are homes that are standing in the Middle East right now. They've been standing for 500 years. I mean, they're just that durable and that resilient in the face of natural disasters that are predictably going to continue to happen. And so that's a big part of what we want to do as well, is like, well, rather than send aid to Africa, like let's build teacher demonstrations in Africa that I'll teach them how to build additional teacher demonstration hubs so that they have the resources and can create the resources to build even more, and they're solution based instead of like band-aids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. So when these are with the plan though, like would you put in like a mode like where this is for 3 families, 15 people, or 300 families? Like how are these designed in that way for sized?
Good question. Yeah, so there's 7 different eco village models that we've developed, and the first one that we're designing and developing all the details for right now is the earth bag construction. And the reason why we chose earth bag construction is because it's the cheapest, it's the easiest to build anywhere in the world because it's just stabilized earth as the foundation, and the structures, like I said, will last 500 years. And they're designed and they're very modular, so it's very easy. So we're designing a 3 dome cluster, which would be 3 domes with, and then we've got a 4 dome cluster, which has like an attached bathroom and it's covered. And we have a 6 dome cluster. And so through the plans that we're making, it's designed in such a way that people could really kind of mix and match and create whatever it is that they want. And then in addition to that, from the whole community model perspective, we have a duplicable city center, which is designed to feed 200 people at a time, do laundry for 500 people. It's a recreation space
Wow.
that is designed to be like a central lodge and a community meeting space that meets the social and recreational needs, so that if somebody wanted to build a maximally affordable eco village, which is what the Earthbag Village is for us, the domes are only a couple hundred square feet. So they're easy, affordable, fairly fast to be able to build, super durable. And then you have this beautiful meeting space where people come together as community to dine, for recreation, to teach courses and things of that nature. And then that is more of like a technologically advanced example of sustainability. And so we have the really simple, like DIY, do it yourself Earthbag Village. And then we have the very complex, also do it yourself, 17,000 square feet, 4 stories, geodesic dome, like really beautiful city center. And that's meant to be the starting point where somebody with investment money could say, hey, I want to start with this, and then I want to involve the community to build an eco village, any of the other 7 eco villages around this. And so this becomes the hub that would be able to house people while we do this. And we could take the 2 or 3 year process to build an eco village around it that would then supply sufficient revenue and resources to continue to expand indefinitely. And that's that abundance that I talked about initially. It's like everybody's needs are being met. Now it's like, okay, we can just keep building our community on top of this. And the bigger it gets, the better it is
Yeah. And how do we
for
turn it?
everyone.
How do we turn it from a dream and want to do it and make it happen? Like what's the financial investment to like how is it do you see this as being more affordable for people? Like say I know so many young people today, they want to put together an eco community, but
Yeah.
you gotta acquire the land, and then compared to building a conventional home or a conventional like community, would you say the cost is half as much, twice as much? What's the value of doing
Yeah.
that?
So this is why I talk about how we're designing everything to be modular. So again, our idea is to stimulate the entire sustainability industry. And so teacher demonstration hubs is one way to do that, but that caters to a very very specific demographic and a very specific value set and interest level. So as we've been designing this, we've been saying, well, what about people who just want to build a guest house in their backyard, perhaps, or people that want to join a community and that doesn't have anything to do with us and be able to build their home affordably. And so again, that's why we chose earth bag construction as the first building model, because it's significantly more affordable and more durable and 100% healthy of the earth as a model that can be built so that people could get together, 40 or 50 of their friends and build themselves a home in a matter of a few months with their own hands, and not having to go through the process of using our plans to be able to do that and save themselves significant resources, and creating a home, like I said, that's healthier, is going to last longer, is way more artistic, and arguably much more beautiful and interesting, and then teach their friends and other people how to do that as well. So that's what we envision, is like, hey, through our plans, as people get together and like get 50 people together and be like, okay, let's build me one of these this week, in the next couple months, and then we'll get together and let's go build one over here. And as people get trained on how to do this, spreading the idea and making it more of the norm, sustainable building like this more of the norm, instead of currently it's something that a lot of people don't have it's like a mystery. We want to demystify the mystery and make it common sense.
Yeah, me too. So tell me, when you say earth bag, I'm thinking bags of soil. When you say earth bag, what does that look like?
Yeah, so stabilized earth, it's dirt, and like 15% cement. Yeah, soil, so earth, and 15% cement to stabilize it. And you are filling bags and you stack them, and they build these really beautiful domes. If you Google Earth Bag Village, you'll come across our designs for all that and what that looks like. So our Earth Bag Village is meant to house 150 to 200 people, has a beautiful tropical atrium in the center of it that's big enough like a greenhouse to grow trees in. It's a central like recreation space and designed for yoga and classes and things of that nature. And then it's got all the earth domes around that, surrounding that as well. So it's a really beautiful circular design. But again, each one of those is designed to be able to be built as either an individual structure, a 3-dome cluster, or a 6-dome cluster. And then we've got another housing design that we're working on as well, which would be a three-bedroom house with an attached bathroom and a beautiful central like living space that could be a three-family home if you want to do a community type of deal, or it could be an individual home as well. And all this is stuff that people could build with their own hands. It just takes time. Yeah.
As long as there's windows, I'm in. Lots of windows.
Yeah, definitely.
But the thing that is so amazing though, when I think about living in an earth home like that too, is just how much healthier that is, having all the microorganisms, the microbiome right there in your home. Probably never have to experience mold or black mold or any of the toxic chemicals that comes from sheetrock and lead paints, or I know there's not supposed to be lead paints, but a lot of people are still living with lead paint. So, I mean, you can't get much closer to nature than that. A little bit of concrete to hold it together like mortar, right? Just like the old days when the Egyptians built the pyramids, right? It's probably similar, right? Going way back there. And are there a lot of these earth bag homes? Like you said, there's a website. Maybe we could put that in, Meredith, find that website and put that in the link for people. And we'll make sure we put that on the replay. So everybody can have a look at that. This sounds really, really cool. I've never built a new home. This comes back to your thing about flooring, the most sustainable flooring, right? Being that repurposed wood, hardwood floor, or hardwood floors, like this. Like I've always bought everything secondhand, right? So the home that I'm in, but to think about adding on or doing something like that, this is big eye-opening stuff, you guys. This is really important to have a look at, because the next thing we're going to dive into, and we don't have that much more time, but I think this is such an important conversation that brings us back to these earth homes and moving forward to a regenerative world with, crazy things happening in the world right now, where the lights could go out, the internet could go down at any time. We hear all this conspiracy theories running around even about September 24th, but crazy stuff out there circulating. But being the more resilient that we can be, people, the better chance we have to enjoy every breath that we have on this planet. But where do you stand, your opinion on the global sustainability movement? Where do you see What's your opinion on that? How we're headed and where we're going? What's the progress report on that?
Uh, well, by definition, the way that we're living right now is not sustainable. I mean, the definition of sustainability is that if we were to continue to do what we're doing right now, it would last in perpetuity. Like we could do this without end. And that's clearly not the case right now. But from a really positive perspective, I think that us evolving into a sustainable civilization is inevitable. Because there is a best way to do things. There is a right way. And even though we can debate about it, and there's some, I mean, there's some subjectivity in it. Like we've learned that lead paint is not a good idea. And at the same time, like we've researched paint just like we've researched everything else. So you can see our research on the most sustainable paints, adhesives, primers. We've done all that research as well. The same thing for construction is happening right now. And I think more and more people are waking up very rapidly and recognizing, I say in our weekly progress updates, which we've been doing for 10 years now, selfish philanthropy or selfish humanitarianism, like it's in people's best interest to build more sustainably. It's in people's best interest to eliminate their power bills by building sustainable energy infrastructure. It's in their best interest on an individual level as well as on a global level. So I think that more and more people are waking up to this every single day. And so regardless of the political wins and perspectives, like the overall understanding of what is right and what works for the whole human organism is becoming clearer and clearer, I think, every day. And more people are getting excited about this. And we talked about the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic definitely woke a lot of people up to like, whoa, I need more resilience in my life. And as food prices and stuff are escalating, the idea of maybe growing your own little garden might make more sense to a lot of people, and recognizing like, oh, a lot of the foods, people are starting to be aware that the diversity that they get in the grocery store and the quality that they get in the grocery store is not as good as what they could grow themselves. And it's fun to grow food once you understand what you're doing. And so I think the movement is rapidly expanding, really rapidly expanding. The idea of a Green New Deal wasn't something that would have even been talked about 15 years ago. And even though it's heavily debated, like it's being talked about. We just passed the greatest, climate change legislation in the history of the world. So even though it got watered down, that's it's still a big step, massive step, and so I see a lot more big steps like that in the works and on the way.
Well, that's why we have these conversations and we bring attention to people like you and the good work that you're doing. And we're going to do our best to spread this out far and wide to everybody, whether people are doing an add-on or repainting your walls or redoing your floors. This is a one source, free open source. I love that way you say open source versus free source. Like anytime before you're going to do any home remodeling, you want to go to this website and check out the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours of research that's gone into every inch of building a sustainable community. And one of the things that I would love for you to talk about as we're closing out here is you've been a holistic practitioner your whole entire career, right? And this has led you to doing such a project of this magnitude. And, I would love you to just because I know a lot of our listeners are really, really tune into here, not just for a dose of positivity, but for those health reasons, those health benefits. So I'd love for you just to talk about, touched a little bit about the psychology, right? But these building materials and when you're using in detoxifying your homes, right?
Yeah.
And also detoxifying Mother Nature, right? Because the way we're harvesting or the types of materials we're using and the regenerative processes that go into using these supplies. So just the community building and the holistic health aspect, because a lot of people who are coming onto the call late right now maybe didn't hear that at the beginning, but I was so fascinated with, we kind of touched upon it then. So I'd love you to just meld those two together really, really beautifully right now for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you have the physiological and the emotional side of it. And so on the physiological side, it really comes down to toxins in our environment. Most people don't realize that the adhesives that we use to hold down our carpet and to build our structures. The paints that we use are usually loaded with all kinds of toxins as well. The materials that we use, that we spray inside our walls to protect against insects, all of that stuff is super, super carcinogenic, and so it's possible to build without all of that. And nowadays, because people are waking up and they're becoming more aware, and when we research some of these paint companies, the most coolest thing about it, like researching sustainable paint, we found some companies that have been that have been creating sustainable paints for 15, 20 years. It's just now they're becoming really popular. It's like, whoa, these guys got it. Like a long time ago, they were thinking about this stuff.
Right.
And so from a physiological standpoint, that the solutions already exist for all of that. Like we have the ability to build homes that are toxin free. And same thing from a food perspective. We obviously have the ability to grow food that's not sprayed with the 3 primary poisons, herbicides, fungicides, and pesticides, which are super toxic. The idea that we spray these things on our food is pretty wild. And then, like you said, what this does to Mother Earth, like the leaching of all these chemicals into our water, into our air, into our soil. And just recently, in the last 2 weeks, they showed that the amount of forever chemicals now that are in rainwater are no longer within the EPA recommended standards. That means that we poisoned our atmosphere so badly that like rainwater is now toxic, and they're finding these chemicals, and just like mercury in isolated, lakes and rivers up in the mountains that, there hasn't been a car within 100 miles of these places. And the point is it's become that big of a problem. So we have the ability to do better and do differently. So that's the physical side. On the emotional side, that was what really motivated me as much as anything, was recognizing the need in people's lives for meaningful connection, for meaningful lives, for lives that meant something, like working with Olympic athletes and working with some people that were millionaires in their 30s, and realizing that in a lot of cases, these were some of the most accomplished people, like by society standards, they had achieved massive success. But working with them one-on-one, I recognized that they weren't happy. And I came to the same place for myself. Like I achieved massive success, 6-figure income running my clinic. And I wasn't like, I craved making a bigger difference. I craved more deeper connection and community in my life. And I realized that everybody that I was working with is a reflection of that. We were a reflection of that for each other. It's like, whoa, there's a deep, deep, deep soul need for meaningful connection, for a meaningful life, for love and compassion and personal growth and security within our lives, but also diversity and variety within our lives. And so the 7 foundational human needs was a big part of what we created, as well as thinking about that and designing an environment that addresses that also. And so that's a big part of when we talk about open sourcing something like fulfilled living, like our structure for creating that within community, I think is as valuable and as the homes that we're building. And it doesn't require somebody to build a new home. So a lot of people ask us like, well, how will this be applied within a city environment? Because like you can't build an eco community in the middle of New York. It's like, well, yeah, but you could take our highest good education program or our fulfilled living model and absolutely roll that out within that environment and build community on something like this. We think that people just need to see what's possible with that to really inspire them to want to do that. So, and it's happening on different levels. It's not a new idea. We have Meetup where people are getting together and, sharing different hobbies and things of that nature. And if you even look in like colleges, you have fraternities and sororities where people are getting together and doing their thing. And there's all kinds of different types of groups. It's like, how do we build community groups around creating a better world? That's our focus, And so I don't know, did I answer your question?
Oh yeah, that was so great, and it's riled me up so much that I usually don't do this, but I'm going to ask everybody who's listening to the live and the replay to share this interview with your friends and family, because this is life-saving stuff for the planet and for you. So many people suffering with different allergies and toxic overload, and the information that's come across this 1 hour conversation with you, Jae, is just resonates so deeply, and is so profound timing for all of us to take charge of our living spaces, and that goes out to the broader world, to the Pachamama. So I'm asking everybody to do a humanitarian, really good thing today. If you're listening to this, share this. We'll put the well in our Facebook group, we'll put the link in there, and because most people don't know that this exists, that all of this research has gone in to help you have a toxic-free home, a toxic-free community, how to build a better global society, all in one place. And I don't want to say all in one place, because when you read my books, Living Like the Future Matters and Conscious Cures, Solutions to 21st Century Pandemics, you'll find a lot of incredible resources as well. But these are the types of things that we, as a positivity community, have the ability and the responsibility to get this information out to as many people as we can. And I really charge all of you in a most loving, open-hearted, compassionate way to reach out to as many people as you can with this interview. And we love it when you guys write reviews and get people to subscribe to our channel. And that's my little infomercial, other than the fact that Meredith's going to put the link into our new membership, which we hope you guys will all check out, because we really, really want to take this conversation deeper, help more people, and help you save time, save money, and thrive in the 21st century, because we are coming up to a shitstorm here, and we're already in the middle of one, and some people have already gone through it and are out on the other end, and coming back and telling us how we have to live more like the future matters. So go ahead and check out that link as well. So in closing, oh my gosh, this was like one of the fastest hours of my life. We have just a couple of minutes here, Jae, and I can't wait to continue this conversation with you. I didn't get to all of our questions, but we'll have to just do this again. But what is the number one thing one community can help people with right now? That was your question that you asked. What is the number one thing?
Yeah, I mean, from resources that we've created that I think are really valuable, I've touched on those. So we've done, like I said, we've done open source research that is truly independent and with the sole goal of finding out what is the best in the world. Engineers have done this research, and we've covered flooring, we've covered insulation, we've covered shower heads, we've covered toilets, we've covered urinals, we've covered paints, adhesives. I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole bunch of those. We've also done completed research on the most sustainable approaches for recycling everything that can be recycled. So we've covered clothing, paper, glass, plastic, styrofoam, and right now we're completing research on non-recyclables, like how can we eliminate things going to a landfill through waste to energy conversion and carbon capture. So those are some of the resources that we've created right now that are 100% complete and ready to go. Our education model is pretty amazing and open source and ready to go on the property. So there's a lot of amazing resources there. We're doing compression testing on aircrete right now and earth bags. So there's a lot of stuff coming out right there. But I think like things that people could use right now is really looking at like our resources on the most sustainable materials, and that kind of stuff is stuff that a lot of people could use right now. And even if you're not looking to build, just becoming knowledgeable about those things and understanding that a resource exists is that's where the independent research has been done that you can share with other people that you might know, or to inform other people that might be looking to purchase a house or remodel a room or things like that. These are things that can make a really, really big difference in your individual health, but also in the health of your environment and the planet as well. And just supporting these companies, put our money where our values are, fund the things you care about.
I love it. I love it. Well, I just think you guys, if we're not going to build a home, we know somebody who is going to build a home, and repurposing everything is key. And I really believe that when we think about all of the commercials and all of the information that comes out that is sponsored by major mass corporations, getting us to buy into this toxic world that they've created, and we have an open source, non paid by anybody that we can look at. It's like the Ann Landers of over whatever, the Martha Stewart of sustainability right at our fingertips. So I hope you guys will all check it out. And now I just wanted to ask you one question. What is the number one thing that one community needs from a Dose of Positivity community besides me spreading the sharing and the love? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Spreading and sharing the love, get the word out. anybody can help that wants to get involved, so if people really want, you can visit our helping page, which is just onecommunityglobal.org/helping, and see ways that you can participate, ranging from like choosing us on Amazon as your Amazon Smile like charity. So like your regular Amazon purchases contribute a couple percent to what it is that we're doing, to becoming a volunteer and contributing in that way, to sharing our work. There's lots of different ways to participate. So, I mean, getting involved and getting the word out, just continue to share the word and the message.
Well, that Amazon Smile thing, everybody, we're out there consuming, right?
Yeah.
So we're on Amazon, how could dare this company call themselves the Amazon when half the products or more taking down Amazon?
If we're not careful, they're going to be the only Amazon left.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that brings this whole conversation full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We want to keep the Amazon, so we really want to making sure what we use, what we put in and on our bodies, and what homes we live in are made with love and made with the resources from the Pachamama that are renewable, that are healthy for you and the planet. And I want to say, Joel, thank you so much. This has been a terrific conversation, and I am forever grateful. And to everybody who's on the call who wants to stay, it's a gorgeous day. I'd love to show you Maui and some new beautiful flowers. So come on. And Jay, if you want to stay, and if people want to ask any more questions, but our hour is up. So I want to just thank you all for coming to A Dose of Positivity. And next week's guest, I just got to look this up really quick. If I can't find it, it'll be in the Facebook group. But let me just see here. Hey, can you put it in the chat, you guys? And then we'll put it on there, because I got lost. I was so excited about this conversation. Here, I found it. I'm finding it. You guys, because I know this always is so helpful when we know who's coming on next. So, you're gonna love this. Next week, it's Sophie Soul. She'll be diving deep into the topic of from dependency to self-determination. And she is totally into everything that One Community is about. She's her name, Sophie Soul, says it all. So we'll look forward to seeing you all next week on A Dose of Positivity. Same time, same place. But I am going to be calling in from North Carolina. So I will not have my son behind me, but I will be bringing my sunny personality forward. Big love to you all, and aloha. We're going to go off the live stream and out into the garden now.